back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we're focused on Star Trek, the original series, Balance of Terror, and I cut you off, Earl Grey Trekkie. What were you saying about Voyager?
Wasn't the Voyager documentary being filmed on Star Trek cruise?
They were filming last year because it was the 25th anniversary of Voyager. Or I'm sorry, this year. And they had the cruise back in February or March, like right before the world went to shit.
Okay.
But yeah, we were talking about the Star Trek cruise, I guess, off camera before our stream. But
I almost booked tickets last night to the Star Trek cruise. That happened off camera, but that was that's what happens sometimes on Starfleet Boy After Dark. It gets a little lit,
and so do we.
It's true. Welcome back, Robbie and Fathery, to our TOS discussions. I'm really excited that we get to resume them. I do feel bad that the doctor can't be with us, but he may join us from time to time along with Emma. And apparently Trek on the Tube may be able to join us for a few of these in the future as well. So that would be a nice thing. And of course, I wasn't as organized. I'm never as organized as I could be, but I'll try to organize a lot more people to start coming on these, because I've been hearing through the grapevine there's a lot of TOS fans out there, so it's pretty exciting. Fathery, would you do the honors of giving the episode summary for Balance of Terror?
Oh, I suppose.
Thank you. I'm gonna put you over here so you can. There we go. I feel better. I don't know why I feel better down here.
So the episode begins with a slice of life aboard the USS Enterprise. Kirk fulfilling his captain's duties of performing a wedding between two of his officers, when all of a sudden, oh no, the wedding's interrupted by Red Alert and Sulu on the speakers saying that there's been an attack on one of the Earth outposts along the neutral zone. This is over 100 years after the Earth-Romulan War, and since then there is a treaty establishing a neutral zone between the Romulans and the rest of the galaxy. No one ever has seen a Romulan face-to-face. The war was fought and the treaty was negotiated all over subspace radio with no ship-to-ship visual communication. But the humans think that the Romulans are this warrior-like species, and there's more outposts being destroyed. We eventually see the Romulans, and surprise to the audience as well as the crew of the Enterprise, they look like Vulcans. They look like Mr. Spock. They're using new technology.
In fact, they look just like Mr. Spock's father.
Yeah, he's like, oh, that dude looks like my dad.
that one dude definitely looked like his father. But anyway,
so this stirs up some bigotry with the navigator, Mr. Styles, whose ancestors fought in the Romulan War. And aboard the Romulan ship, the commander is very dutiful to his people. He has this new ship with new technology. He has an invisibility cloak. He has a plasma weapon that can destroy an outpost in just a single hit or a couple of hits. And we get a battle of wits, kind of submarine style, between the Romulan commander and Captain Kirk. And in the end, at the game of cat and mouse, they get some hits on each other. Both ships take a little bit of a licking, but ultimately Captain Kirk is able to outsmart the commander, and he cannot allow his ship to be captured by Starfleet. He can't allow it to be turned over into enemy hands. So he fulfills his final duty to his Romulan people and self-destructs his ship.
That was very concise. Brilliantly done. I'm very impressed. We got a bunch of folks in the audience. Welcome. Howdy to Stress-Free K. Howdy. Who, how? I don't know. That was a weird thing.
Trek on the Tube.
Tube is here. This, of course, is well known as the worst episode of TOS. No.
I actually hear a few people, I think they're trying to be ironic, and they're like, oh yeah, I actually love Balance of Terror, but I mean it is what it is. It's no Spock's brain.
Balance of Terror, too long, didn't read version. Spock must deal with space racism amongst the standoff against the Romulans. Hey, Caleb, welcome. I'm glad you're here. That is a topic that we'll go over. We could start talking about it now if you guys want to, but yeah, there's a little bit of bigotry, and there's the famous line of leave your bigotry in your quarters. There's no room for it on the bridge, that Kirk delivers, and I've seen that line used a lot, which is cool. I'd forgotten that it was in this episode. Stress Free K, that is not Sarek. What is the name of the Romulan Centurion captain? I forget. Did we
His name in the script is just Romulan Commander.
Romulan Commander.
Same with the woman Romulan Commander we see in season 3 in the Enterprise incident, but they're not given names. The only Romulan that has a name is Decius. And then it's just like the Commander and the Centurion.
That's true. What SFK meant was the actor. Yes, that's Mark Leonard, the great Mark Leonard, who died in 1996. I forgot. That's the year I graduated high school, so I forgot that Mark Leonard died that year.
This was his first of many appearances in Star Trek, though. He did the Romulan Commander in 66, and then in 67 he appears as Sarek for the first time in Journey to Babel, and then he plays Sarek again in the animated series, and then he's the Klingon captain in the motion picture. Then he's Sarek in Star Trek's 3 and 4 and 6, and a couple episodes of Next Generation.
Yep. Very cool. Mr. Styles, which is incorrectly spelled, that's the spelling of Captain Styles of Star Trek 3.
Who was also a dick.
Who's also a dick, that's true. This Styles is spelled Stiles. Lived through space, Dunkirk, hence his racism. Yeah. What was space? Did I miss something?
Dunkirk,
no, I know Dunkirk, but
the British evacuation of France in World War II.
Was there a line I missed? Was his family or he evacuated? There was something about a previous Captain Styles. I don't know. I don't remember what Toddy's talking about. Oh, that was a joke on Harry Styles being in Dunkirk. Okay. It was very, very funny. I missed the Styles backstory, and I guess his reason. Okay. That's funny.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Trek on the Tube. Do you want to just come on the show? I mean, you're kind of participating, and anyways, I'll send you a link. LMK in the chat.
Yeah. Then we can not laugh at your joke to your face.
Yeah, exactly. I want to start with the wedding, because it was a really cool scene, and that's where we meet my space husband who got killed. I had a Voyager space husband who got killed recently, and now I have a TOS space husband.
Who was the Voyager husband?
I forget his name already. He was like in the episode where 7 of 9 where 7 of 9 creates one Uno. What's his name? What was the name? Is it one? That episode.
Borg kid.
Borg kid. Yeah, Uberborg. His father, the one that the nanoprobes kill, is my space husband from Voyager, and and then he dies, and then I forgot. I was too young when this episode came out to notice Robert Tomlinson before, but this time I noticed him, and I was like,
you were only like 12 or 13 when this episode came out, I think.
No, I was like not born when this episode came out. But yeah, you know what I mean. Anyways, the wedding was cool. Is that a chapel or what's going on there?
Yeah, I think that is before Roddenberry kind of came out with this kind of more secular version of humankind that we see throughout Star Trek. In Star Trek The Next Generation, Andy Probert, who designed the Galaxy-class Enterprise, wanted to put a chapel on the ship, and Gene Roddenberry told him, no, I don't want there to be a chapel on the ship.
It was an interesting chapel. It looked like there was a Christmas tree cut out relief in the background.
What are those candles that Yeoman Rand is lighting?
Yeah, and there's all these crazy candles. I wondered if it was a hippie religion of the 60s, perhaps. I don't mean to call Unitarians hippies, but something like the
they're used to it. Yeah. Uh,
Like unitary.
It was interesting that they didn't have the dress uniforms established yet. I guess we don't get those until or no, well, these aired out of order, but they have dress uniforms in the menagerie because
Right.
we see them wearing them. But I think Court Martial is actually the first produced episode, which we haven't covered yet, I guess. But I guess the couple just wanted to keep it more casual. There's like normal uniforms, not casual enough to have like civilian clothes, but like casual enough to like not be the dress uniforms. And then I couldn't tell if it's like flowers or feathers in her hair.
I guess I could pull up a thing of it, but I really like that it started out in that kind of like playful and jovial tone, and then all of a sudden you get the red alert, and you know, because the starbase was under attack and stuff, and it interrupts, so and it leaves you hanging like you're like, oh no, they didn't actually get to get married. So you're like, maybe at the end they'll have a marriage scene, and of course it turns out totally different. It's very sad at the end because Tomlinson dies. This episode's really good. I think it like does this really cool thing with the structure, and that really got to me, and I had forgotten that Tomlinson dies. What did you guys think about that?
No, I think that's really really powerful and impactful. It's something they used to write differently in the era of television when a lot of your writers were like actually combat veterans from like World War II. People had like they took this stuff like a little bit more serious. You know, like if we watch like a modern show now, like I'll just say like Discovery as an example, and I don't mean this as a criticism. I'm just talking about like the distinction. You know, like say something like Discovery, they'll be like running around shooting at people, and they're kind of like, you know, making jokes or like having like some little like levity thrown back and forth, and it's more like energetic and lighthearted and not like grim and serious like something like this.
Robbie, what were you gonna say?
I really like the contrast between just the kind of civilian life and then going straight into the bridge crew doing their jobs. And I like seeing some of the crew members what they do in their spare time. You know, they have lives.
Yeah,
I like that about TOS, that we actually get a lot of that in TOS. Like we've seen Uhura singing, we've seen like a lot of playing chess, like we've seen like sports and like wrestling or whatever that was, and, you know, that was
exercise fitness
type stuff,
but,
you know.
It's foundational to what would eventually become known as like the pillar filler in, you know, TNG and onwards, where you have like those little like character scenes in 10 Forward and stuff like that, where, you know, like Data's learning how to paint, and
right,
Geordi is going to grow a beard and talk about it at their poker game, and, you know, all of that type of stuff.
Stress Free K says, are we sure that Tomlinson was maybe a little gay because their looks to one another were a little curious? I thought they were very much in love, but I think future people are all omnisexual. Like I don't think there's like gay or straight or bisexual in the future. I think it's all just whoever you happen to fall in love with, because I mean there's probably like 20 new genders. Andorians themselves have 4 genders. I mean, and you know, like humans are interacting with like all these aliens. So I don't know that gay applies anymore in the future. But as far as for me, I would love it if Tomlinson, of course, were gay, because that would give me a shot at at being
the thing is Starfleet Boy, you'd have to put like those feather flower things in your hair.
I'll do it. I have feathers. If you guys give me a chance, I'll go get some.
I will hand you away at the wedding, like Scotty was doing. Yeah, I'll like hang up the camera on the wall so it can be displayed on all the view screens like Scotty did. And then
Robbie,
I'll
you
can
do the captain's honor of marrying us.
Yeah, you can be the captain.
You can be the captain. You could do that. No, but going, I'm sure Stress 3K was just teasing me, but Tomlinson reminded me of Tolar, the Orion from. Oh, there's a little bit of a Tolar look to Tomlinson. That's true. That's a good call out. Very good.
He uses moisturizer.
It must be. It's true. um, no more room for bigotry. Are we clear? That scene was interesting. So Styles' beef with Spock was because of the fact that Romulans and Vulcans are of the same people, or what was the deal? I couldn't remember kind of like why Kirk said that.
Well, it was because Uhura had intercepted the coded message
That's
that
right.
the Romulan ship had transmitted back to, I guess, Romulus. And when she said something about, like, attempting to decode or something like that, he said, you should let Mr. Spock do it or something. And then Kirk heard that.
Oh,
He says it like under his breath.
Right, and he says it's like something like he's a machine or a computer or something like that, right?
Well, Kirk is like, I assume that you're complimenting Mr. Spock's ability to decode, and Styles is like, oh, I'm not sure, sir. Then he's like, well, here's one thing you can be sure of, Mister. Like, I'm on my ship. There's no room for bigotry. Leave it in your quarters or whatever. But Styles was suggesting that Spock was a spy for the enemy. When they say that, like, the Romulans, these people that we had this bloody war with 100 years ago look like Spock. Like, maybe Vulcans and Romulans are connected. And Spock speculates, like, yeah, we probably share like a common ancestry. Vulcans used to be very like warlike and terrible, and we did have a time when we like colonized other planets and were spreading around the galaxy, and these Romulans must be descendants of that. It parallels what happened in World War II to George Takei, of all people. But the idea of, like, you look like the enemy, we don't know if we can trust you. That's like a terrible stain on American history when Japanese American civilians were detained, and everyone should go listen to Takei talk about it in detail. He talks about spending his childhood in these internment camps with the idea of, like, we can't trust you. We can't believe you're really one of us because you look like the enemy.
It's true. It didn't happen to me to quite the degree that it happened to Japanese Americans, but during the Gulf War, I was subject to a lot of mistrust among school friends, and it was really perturbing. I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. When you grow up in a country, I grew up proud to be an American, like waving the flag. So when that trust when that is questioned, because at that time we were, at war with Iraq and people that look like me, it was a very uncomfortable time.
That's how Takei describes it. Takei talks about he thought of himself as an American, like all those Japanese civilians, they were Americans. They had like no loyalty to the Japanese military that the United States was at war with, and it was like their like identity as Americans itself was being attacked. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah, me too. But I mean, it does put a different perspective on things. So I'm grateful for at least having that. Sarah Vickery is here. Hello, welcome to the stream. That little known secret, that's Mrs. Trek on the Tube. So I don't know what's going on. Are you guys hanging out together on my stream? I love it. It's very cool. That's good that you remind. I can't believe I just watched this episode and I couldn't remember that whole dynamic. So I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad we brought that to light again. We see the Romulan warbird for the first time in this episode, right? Is it called the warbird or the bird of prey?
It's kind of referred to as the bird of prey. The bird of prey was always a Romulan idea, and they designed the Star Trek 3 bird of prey to be a Romulan ship, and then they decided, we want the Klingons as the bad guys, so it's going to be Klingon stole of Romulan bird of prey, and then they were finally like, it's just a Klingon ship. The Klingons have bird of preys now.
Is this the last time we see that ship, other than Picard?
Originally, but with the I take that back. We see it again briefly in the Deadly Years in season 2, I believe, And then in the remastered episodes, they include a little bit of footage of it flying around in the Enterprise incident in season 3, but not the original Enterprise incident. Did not have it.
Oh, interesting. And then it comes back in Picard. That's the only other time. And then of course,
in Lower Decks,
as well.
Yeah, it's a fan favorite design though. A lot of people really liked it. It was a really cool model that they built, and unfortunately, it was like damaged in an earthquake, so they couldn't use it in a show anymore.
What did you guys think of the Romulan commander?
There was a brilliant performance. Mark Leonard's often spoke about how like this is one of his favorite roles. This is something that like always meant a lot to him, that he's very proud of what he did here. He thought it was kind of a challenging performance, and he liked playing this this complicated villain.
He really put a lot into the performance.
Yeah, I liked it. It felt very Shakespearean to me too, like the cadence and the kind of like manner in which the Romulans speak is very formal and like almost beautiful, like kind of poetic a bit.
Another World War II Japanese parallel that I'm going to draw is that he kind of comes off a lot like Admiral Yamamoto, right? The commander of the Japanese Navy.
Yes.
And kind of his reluctance to like attack Pearl Harbor, because he was like, this is going to start a war with, and it's going to hurt my country because we're going to be in this big war with the Americans. It's similar here, how he's reluctant about like destroying these outposts, knowing that like, yeah, when we have like this new weapon, this new technology, we're probably going to end up starting a war again. And he didn't want that for his people, but at the same time, he is still very dutiful, and he does his duty to the best of his ability.
Yeah, totally. That reminds me, the briefing room scene was really interesting, because did we get a hint of the Vulcan hello when Spock is saying that they should actually like attack, and like attack first or strike first or whatever, instead of letting the warbird retreat back into the bird of prey retreat back into Romulan space. Like that's kind of like the MO the Vulcans had for the Klingons, right? Like, and so like,
well, they've already established the Romulans are a serious threat, and so I think there's some justification for it. It's also like the Romulan commander is supposed to be such a genius tactician, and I really like the battle of him and Kirk, the chess game between the two of them, and the respect that they earn for each other. There's that one line where they're caught off guard. The Romulans are caught off guard, and he's like, how is he doing this? And he's like, he's a sorcerer. That one,
that's a cool part.
Enemy commander on this Earth ship. They call it like all Earth because it's before like the idea of the Federation. But it's just like the respect that he has. Like, oh my God, this guy is so good. I've done 100 campaigns. I've never met a foe this cunning.
I also like that.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I kept getting reminded of the Wrath of Khan.
It's very Wrath of Khan. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities to like the Mutara Nebula battle in the Wrath of Khan.
Stress Free K agrees.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying Stress Free K agrees. Yeah.
Even his sacrifice at the end, just like when Khan dies.
Oh yeah, there's like a similarity, but except this guy goes out like in a noble kind of way and just kind of says goodbye, whereas the Khan's like, from hell's heart I stab at thee, for hate's sake I spit my last breath at thee, or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly. Daniel CEO is here. Hello. What do you think of this episode? Let us know. Robbie, you did a tweet that was really cool. I didn't get a chance to finish reading through all the comments, but you asked people what they thought of this episode. It was like almost unanimously. I didn't see one person say it was just all right yet. When I was reading through it, everyone was like, this is my favorite episode. It's a great episode. It's one of the best. And I tend to agree. It was very, very cool. I like your surveys. Oh, Sarah and Sean are going out now. I love that we know what's going on, and so does our audience. Like, that's kind of cool. Have fun. Can you guys make sure to pick up some macaroons for us, so that we could have Sean eat them live on air for the next
They have to be blue though. They need to be
they have
blue.
to be blue, like in the Mandalorian chapter 12. So can you please make sure and get those for us? Thanks, Sarah. Daniel says, another one of my favorite episodes. Great introduction to the Romulans. Yes, I forget that this is our introduction to the Romulans until Enterprise, right? Are the Romulans? Do we see Romulans in Enterprise?
The audience does, but the characters do not.
I haven't seen that episode.
Yeah, it seems like. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say they show up like audio only in season 2 in the episode Mindfell. It's like Enterprise season 2 episode 3 or 4, I believe. And then,
yeah, that's the one where the piece of the mine gets stuck in
Malcolm Reed, yeah,
Malcolm's leg. Oh, okay, you're right. They do appear audio only in that one.
But then we actually see their faces in a trilogy of episodes in season 4 that you haven't gotten to yet. So I won't spoil that for you.
You've seen it, Robbie?
Yeah, I've seen all of Enterprise.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, cool. I gotta get on that. All right, cool. That's gonna be an exciting episode because I guess so. If we see them, but they don't, they stay true to what they say in this episode that humans haven't seen Romulans ever. So that makes sense. That's
and
good.
The first 2 seasons of Discovery never used Romulans because they can't see them. So that's something they had to hold off on. I think that's part of like why they went so Romulan heavy in Picard. It's like the modern Star Trek writers are like, we really want to do something with the Romulans, but we can't on Discovery. So they were like saving it up. They were saving it up for Picard, I guess.
What did you think of the Romulans here versus the Romulans in TNG, and then versus the Romulans in Picard? I'm going to say that I think the Picard Romulans feel closer to these Romulans than the TNG Romulans feel to these Romulans.
Because TNG Romulans suck. Sorry, they're good bad guys, but they're not as interesting. I like TOS Romulans, and when I was a kid, I always wished that like when they would show up on like Next Generation or DS9 or whatever, they would be like a little bit more like this. And I like that Picard found a way to make it all tie together and make it all work, and kind of restored them back to their TOS level of, a little bit more complicated, a little bit more mystique.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Robbie?
I think the Romulans were only as good in the TNG episode The Wounded.
Oh yeah, that's the one where Geordi makes a Romulan friend, right? No,
maybe I think it's one where the Romulan and Picard are butting heads, and they're I can't remember the episode name. It's very tense.
Is it the one with the Pegasus? Maybe no.
The one with the defector.
Oh, yeah, the defector. Yes,
that's a good episode. Yeah, that's a really good one.
And Admiral Jarok is kind of like this, but not. It's still. I just don't know. I feel like the Picard Romulans are way closer to the TOS. It is I do see a difference, a shift. Maybe it's just because they have
the same theme music too.
They do have the same dun 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 dun.
Even though TOS reuses that a lot, like they use that in the Mirror Universe and all this other stuff. But
I was expecting Kirk's ship to feel the blast from the Romulan self-destruct. Oh yeah, I guess it didn't. Right? It was just those inertial dampeners when they're at full when they're functioning at full, they work really well stress-free K. So that's why the camera didn't rattle in the scene.
When the Romulan was like one last duty to perform, like Sulu dropped the ship down into reverse, and he was like backing up. He's like, I know what this guy's about to
do. That's a good point. I like how it's reminiscent of World War II submarine battle. Yes, 100% is. What is that, like Das Boot?
Yeah, this would have been before Das Boot came out, but there was like The Enemy Below. Is that the name of it? Enemy Below 1957. I think that was some of the inspiration for this.
I used to always say, and I still say it, that there should be like a Hunt for Red October in space, and it should be a Star Trek episode or a Star Trek film. But this is kind of like one. Yeah, I was gonna say that's the whole vibe that I got when I was watching.
The Hunt for Red October is like this combined with that TNG episode, The Defector.
Yeah, it's the two of them combined, and you've got the Hunt for Red October. It's totally true.
Because it's the same thing. Like they're trying to like track down like this new experimental vessel. But the thing in the Hunt for Red October is like the captain of it wants to defect. He wants to come over to your side. So you kind of have like an ally on the ship that you have to like be in combat with. It was very interesting, very very dynamic.
We will get blue macaroons. That's exciting. Thank you, Sarah. There is an episode of Enterprise where the Romulans are piloting a drone destroyer as well. What was that one?
That's what I was talking about. With,
that's the one you're talking about. Okay.
It's a three-part story. They did a lot of three-part stories in Enterprise season 4.
Caleb, yeah, we talked about this too. Yeah. George Takei was himself a Japanese American internment camp along with his family. You should definitely go watch. That was in the most recent Star Trek panel. He was telling those stories, and he tells it. You could probably find it really easily on YouTube.
It's interesting. Like I've heard him talk about like those stories in person when he's at like conventions and stuff, and he goes into like a lot of detail. Like it's very important to him that that's remembered so that it doesn't happen to anyone again.
I like Commander Tomalak too, but I actually like this guy way better. I wish
Tomalak. He's Jakar from Babylon 5.
I also thought it was interesting in the same briefing room scene when McCoy says, "Do you want a galactic war on your conscience?" And I can't help but wonder if Spock was like, "Just like my stepsister."
Foster sister.
Sorry, just like my foster sister.
Yeah, McCoy is really good in this episode. You don't see a ton of them, but the moments you do see him, it's like classic McCoy. He as mean and cranky as he can be to people, he still really cares about the big picture, about he doesn't want to see death. He doesn't want to see people hurt. So he's kind of an anti-war type of character, which I enjoy that.
And he has that great another kind of iconic line is when when Kirk is asking what do I do, and he's having his moment of doubt, and he's like, I wasn't looking for an answer, and McCoy's like, well, I've got one, and he talks about in all the stars there's this many Earth type planets, or whatever.
3 million Earth type planets in our galaxy, and 3 million galaxies like ours
in the universe. And he goes, and in all of that,
million is a trillion, right?
Yeah, and in all of that, and perhaps more, only one of each of us, which is really profound and true, I think. Don't destroy the one named Kirk, which I love that line.
That scene was written by Roddenberry. He added that into the original script.
Go Roddenberry.
It's very similar to The Cage, the very first Star Trek episode ever. The idea of this captain burdened with the weight and responsibility of being a captain and deciding who lives and who dies. And at this point, if he messes up, I almost said a bad word, but if he messes up, there's going to be a war on his hands that could lead to untold death and destruction. There's this new Romulan weapon. This might slaughter our people. So Kirk is feeling the pressure. Shatner is so good in this episode. People who say Shatner can't act, they can't take Captain Kirk seriously, no, watch this episode and actually watch it. He is so nuanced throughout this entire episode. Just like watch the stuff he does with
Yeah.
his face, like the line deliveries, like so much of it is so perfect.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate it. And that moment at the end after he consoles my husband's wife. Sorry, I can't remember. Do you remember the name of the officer or the crew member? This is so bad.
Not Tomlinson.
No, Tomlinson was my husband, but who was his wife or his fiance? I'll look it up later. Or audience, if you can look it up for us, that would be great. But anyways, after he consoles her, there's that nice kind of cool, it's kind of cinematic, the shot of him just walking through the corridors. And again, there's a moment where you could see a lot of both pain and duty in his facial expressions, just in the way that he's walking and all that stuff. So yeah,
that's one of my favorite moments of Captain Kirk in all 50 plus years of Star Trek. I love that moment where you really see like the pain, like oh my god, having to deal with like this young woman thought she was going to get married today, and instead like her fiance is dead, and you know him having to talk to her about it, and then you see like his shields are down, no pun intended, and all like that pain and vulnerability on his face. And then when he steps out into the corridor and like straightens his uniform, he's like I can't I can't just wallow in my pity. I have to be the captain. I have to be like the strong, commanding presence and master of my ship. And that's all in Shatner's face, all of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Are you a fan of Shatner's performance style, Robbie?
It depends on the episode. It changes quite a bit. Sometimes, sometimes it can get a bit, not annoying, but a bit, it can seem a bit put on. But in this episode, he seemed so dedicated to what he was doing and so focused and serious. I liked it.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of William Shatner, not just here, but I've watched probably many of his movies, and I used to watch TJ Hooker, and I loved him on Columbo, and yeah, I'm definitely a huge fan of his, and I like his performance style. And I just love I think the character Kirk is defined by him. I don't think anyone can ever play Kirk differently. Like it has to, even Chris Pine has to kind of like, they all did actually. They all define these characters so well that like anyone who plays these characters after has to like bend a little bit to those and kind of do almost like you can never really do a true original new Kirk or a new Spock, right? Like they always have to resemble how these people how these performers created them. So I like that a lot, and that's a cool thing, because I don't think it was the same for Battlestar Galactica. Like I didn't think like
it's not as iconic.
Right, it's not as iconic.
Adama is not as iconic as Spock or Kirk.
Right, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. It's like there wasn't really, I wasn't reminded of the original Galactica folks when I saw the reportrayals. You know what I mean? But like, I would be turned off if I saw a portrayal of one of these characters not done quite like like how these performers did, especially Kirk. And I think that's a big kudos to Chris Pine, who I think pulled off a really great original performance, but also really honoring Kirk as performed by Shatner, which is pretty crazy. Daniel says that I think the TNG Romulans were a lot like Lawrence. That was Decius, right? Lawrence Monte's character.
He also comes back to play Stonn in season 2 in Amok Time. He was on the apparently, like, there were concerns of like if Nimoy wouldn't come back for season 2 and they wouldn't have Nimoy to play Spock, they were actually gonna consider going with him to replace Nimoy as Spock if they couldn't get Nimoy back.
Caleb says, I like that Picard finally gave an in-universe explanation for the difference between TOS Romulans and TNG Romulans. Now, if we could just get an in-universe explanation for the Klingons in Discovery.
Yeah, Strange New Worlds, baby. That's the place to do that, is on Strange New Worlds.
Oh my gosh, Anson Mount was like, big announcement coming on Twitter, and it was a big announcement. It wasn't the one that I was expecting. Did you guys see that?
He's working with
Yeah,
not
he's
SETI, but is it Medi?
Eddie, yeah.
They're like broadcasting out into space to find aliens. SETI is the other way around. SETI, they're looking for alien broadcasts.
Yeah, totally. I'm a little scared of Medi. I don't think we should be broadcasting out to aliens to let them know we're here. What if we're in like a biological preserve and we let the wrong aliens know where we are, and then they come and find us, and everything gets ruined? I don't know how I feel about it. Is that xenophobic of me? Am I being a little?
Probably a little bit, but it's so I don't know. I think the odds of that happening in our lifetimes are not very high. So
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
too worried
2020.
about it.
A lot of people are predicting
It
one
has
more
been a pretty
time
whack year, so
year, so.
I don't think it's going to get better all of a sudden on January 1st either.
No,
So
it definitely won't.
2021, maybe that's like the year like things really get weird. We'll find out, I guess.
Father is so right. Shatner is great. I love how this is another example of Kirk as strategist. Yeah, there's a lot of good chess playing, going on. Even a stalemate moment for 9 hours and 47 minutes. Did you catch that 47 minutes, Father?
I did. I like yelled at Antonia. I was like 47. Kirk said 47. Yay!
Would this have been the first 47? I don't know. We'd have to look it up.
Maybe. Well, there's one in the menagerie, kind of, but it's kind of a stretch. But I don't want to go on a 47 tangent right now.
I wonder if the writer specifically gave Sulu especially poignant lines towards Styles to drive home how racist he was sounding. It's possible. That's a good and I understand that George Takei may have had some input in some of his performances too, from what I've heard. George Takei describe. Oh, and there was no cringy womanizing, but he does hold Yeoman Rand during that really tense scene.
But if you see what they've done with the two of them in some of the earlier episodes, it's like, yeah, at this moment when we might die, he's like jettison like this recording out in this. I guess that was like their black box, and it's like the moment where they might die. He's like, okay, if this is gonna be like my final moments, this woman that I've been attracted to, like we really are attracted to each other, and I've always like kept us distant because I have to be captain of the ship. But like right now, I'm gonna just embrace her and hold her. I thought it was kind of sweet, even if it was like that's a little weird that they would I don't know that they would be. That's just kind of weird. It's like I guess it's like a little unprofessional, but it's like you think you're gonna die, so I'll cut you some slack.
Some slack. All right. What did you think, Robbie?
I'm not a fan of it, just because the way it's shown, it seems, and knowing what Kirk will do.
But you know what? We've been watching these episodes and we've been disproving a lot of Kirk's cringiness as we go along. And in fact, Emma even has been like, oh yeah, that wasn't really Kirk's fault. Sometimes the cringiness is not even from him. And I'll be the first to admit that if I were in a life or death situation, I wouldn't mind being held by Captain Kirk either. Like, it must be comforting. I mean, he seems like a very nice, snuggly type of person. So I don't know. But you're right. I thought it was it's an odd scene. You don't really see that in Star Trek later ever again. You don't like
you wouldn't see like Picard and Dr. Crusher necessarily do that in a Next Generation episode.
Not even Will and
they're very formal though.
Yeah. But Will and Deanna might not even, I don't think, would even do that. Like, really. That's the closest that I could think of that would do it. Like, like perhaps, but yeah, you don't see this kind of thing often in Star Trek. And I think we've dwelled on it. Sorry, guys. I dwelled on that one a little too long. Caleb says, I think people mistake overacting for bad acting. The dude is a Shakespearean trained actor. He was used to the stage at the time. Just because he occasionally overacts doesn't mean he's a bad actor. I wouldn't even call it overacting.
Yeah, it was like intentionally stagier. Yeah, you went more broad. It was just a different style, and communicating to the audience. Because I mean, that's what actors are. You know, they're communicating emotions, they're communicating dialogue, they're communicating body language, all of that stuff. And the style of the time was you went more broad. You know, things were a little heightened.
I agree. Starfleet Boy, I don't think we have too much to be proud of broadcasts lately. What was I talking about? I forgot. Sorry, Stress Free K.
I'm not sure. Stress Free K, you might want to expand on that a little bit. I don't know what you're talking about either.
So we go through this like back and forth, awesome, you know, between Captain Kirk and the commander, and he ends up near a comet, and at first Kirk's like, that's where we were going to get him and stuff like that. I don't remember the original effects, and I know that Trek on the Tube watches them, but I really liked the remastered comet, like, and then going into it and like how it was like done and everything like that. Do you remember the original effects for this, Fathery?
I think they don't really show. Well, I might be misremembering now. I think there might be like a shot of let me see if I can find out how they did the comet visuals. I'm at the point now where I think because of Netflix, I think I've watched the remastered more than I've watched like the original version. So I really need to like bust up my Blu-rays and start rewatching the originals, as I'm always rewatching Star Trek. But
do you feel the same? And Robbie, have you ever seen the original effects for TOS, or you're watching this for the first time, kind of, right? Like,
I've watched it before, but I've not watched it many times before, and I've not watched the original effects.
Oh, interesting. Cool. That's interesting. There's a whole group of people that may never see the original series with the original effects, and I can't remember what they look like either. Like, I kind of have vague memories, but like I've seen the TOS remastered so many times that that's all I can kind of remember about it. So that's interesting. Daniel says the original VFX make the comet look like a small oblong shaft of light. Oh, interesting. Okay, we'll have to look that up and see. Anyways, finally they get the the commander. Oh, I wanted to say, like, there were pew phasers in this episode, not phaser beams.
well, those were the proximity torpedoes. So
No,
in the
they say
remastered
fire phasers. Oh, okay.
they're in the remastered they changed the visuals a little bit, because they say fire, what is it that they say? They say fire proximity torpedoes, but then it does like originally it did like the phaser sound effect and the phaser visual. And so when they did the remaster, they changed it to like, well, they said proximity torpedoes, so maybe we can assume that's something different, and they changed it to a different effect that still used the phaser sound effect.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. The other thing that I thought, which was interesting, is that like we still don't have a sense of like the Federation yet, because they keep referencing, I think, Spock, like when he was describing like the brief about the Romulans, he's like, this is what what we know of the Romulans. As for what the Romulans think of Earth, he just only specifically mentions Earth. Is unknown to us. So I think that's interesting. Is Journey to Babel when the Federation kind of becomes a thing?
I think they had it the end of season 1. They had that figured out. But yeah, initially the original idea for the show is that it was an Earth ship, and I guess Spock was an alien, but because he was half human, he went and signed up with the humans. They obviously retcon that to be the it's not a United Earth ship, it's a United Federation ship, and they're figuring out the universe. This was all brand new once upon a time.
It was indeed. Let's see, one more thing on my list here. I like that the commander's kind of like trying his best to not have to destroy Kirk in that one scene, the Enterprise in that one scene, he's like, all right, we can get away now. And then that other, is it Decius, who's like, permit me the glory of the kill. And then he's like, he can't do anything about it. He's like, his sense of honor, like forbids him from doing anything but confronting the Enterprise. And I thought that was interesting about, like, again, establishing the Romulans and how they are.
Yeah, Decius is kind of the biggest jerk in this episode. Everyone else is pretty sympathetic, like the Centurion, the commander. They seem like they're just guys, doing their job, and we don't necessarily hate them. They're much more complicated antagonists than what you would typically find in a 1960s science fiction story. Normally if it's on TV or even like in the movies back then, all the bad guy aliens would all be like these monsters. They want to like blow up the earth or eat humans or something like that. What else did we see in 1966 that showed like a very complicated, sympathetic character like this as your antagonist in your story?
Not a lot, I imagine. It was all black and white, sort of binary, good guys, bad guys, not like too much of the shades of gray stuff that we're used to from Star Trek. So I agree with you. Yeah. Stress Free K clarified it was the Medi stuff. Thank you, Stress Free K. You're right. Yes.
But he's talking about with the broadcasting.
Yeah, the broadcasting. Yeah. That makes sense. Guys, what did you not like about this episode? What critiques would you give this episode, if any?
I
don't know.
Struggling
really
to think
good.
of some.
Yeah, like I don't really think they got anything wrong. Like if I could like go back and change things, it'd be like, well, they should have like the dress uniforms during the wedding, and they should be talking about like the Federation, but I mean, like, you can't hold that against them. They hadn't gotten there yet. They didn't have that. They hadn't
invented it. Yeah.
It hadn't been invented yet. So it really is a good example of Star Trek. If you were going to show someone an original series episode and everyone's in it, you have, I mean, Chekhov isn't because he's not on the show yet, but you get Rand, Scotty, Uhura, Sulu, Spock, McCoy. They're all present and accounted for. You get to see, Star Trek deal with like aliens, with new life, new civilization. You get to see them do like all the cool like Navy military stuff that, the fun action that comes with that. But at the end of the day, it's like those Star Trek values. It's a story about it's kind of anti-war. It's very like anti-bigotry. All of those ideals are all present and accounted for. And then you get the drama of the story, the heartbreak of losing someone, about there being death and consequences, and like all of that stuff ties together really well, and it's brilliantly performed. There's some great writing. A lot of the Romulan commander is so well written. A lot of like the Kirk and McCoy stuff is so well written. So this is one of the finest examples of Star Trek the original series.
You also get that kind of like change in Styles' attitude towards the end when Spock ends up saving.
It has an arc. It has a character arc.
Character arc and everything. I do think that something interesting about the original series, and I understand that like Gene hadn't come up with that idea yet, but there is a lot of conflict, and it's very reminiscent to me of like what we see in Discovery. So I think it's a lot more kind of apropos that the Discovery era people are like that. Like they are a little melodramatic, because I think the TOS era is a little bit melodramatic.
Yeah, very. Those are by far the two most melodramatic shows in the whole franchise, unquestionably.
Yeah. So, Father, I meant to ask you: is TOS? I forget. Is it DS9 or TOS that's your favorite show?
DS9 is my favorite, and the original series is my second favorite.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, making sure. I had it mistaken, and I was telling Robbie that this is your favorite show. So I don't know.
I like all Star Trek shows. I enjoy all of them tremendously. But Deep Space Nine is my favorite by far, and then TOS is my second favorite by far. It's like those two are clearly like above all the others in my eyes. For me.
Well, any closing thoughts for you, Robbie?
I think that this episode.
It felt but it did feel like a film. I could see that.
Yeah, it had such a great concept that could have turned into a film. I think it was well acted. The characters were complex and had a lot of depth. It was very dramatic. It was serious. It had a break between the drama with, well, not a break, but it had character drama. It had a lot going on. And it really balanced it well.
It balanced it well. Well,
and what a cool episode title is that, Balance of Terror. It has a cool name. It sounds awesome. It's enticing. I want to watch that. That sounds good.
It's just a brilliant episode.
Yeah, I must agree. I loved this episode when I was a kid. I used to watch it or make my dad put it on when we had it on VHS, and anytime it came on and it was on syndication, I would watch it. I used to pretend to be a Romulan commander when I was a kid. I really loved they're a very enticing adversary. Also they're aliens, and just like, again, this episode really establishes them as a great. It reminds me of the first time we met the Cardassians in TNG, how they were like very clever and kind of like in that episode like went head to head with the Federation. They weren't just like kind of like the Romulans in in TNG. So it kind of reminded me of that. Like it's a shame that we don't get a lot of the Romulans again fleshed out in quite this way until Star Trek Picard, and I hope we get more of them. I know a lot of people are like, okay, we're done with the Romulans. Season 2 of Picard shouldn't have too much Romulans, but I'm like, let's go full.
I mean, they have a Romulan in their crew. They have Elnor, so I think that's a great vehicle to explore. Worf was a great vehicle for TNG and DS9 to explore the Klingons more.
Yeah, I agree. That's true.
If only we'd got season 5 of Enterprise.
Yeah, I still want to see the Earth-Romulan War somehow, someday. I really wish Manny Koto could have done that with like additional seasons of Enterprise.
Is it depicted or anything in a book or like in comics or anything?
The novels have covered it. Yeah, there's like a series of novels about like Captain Archer and the Romulan War, but I want it to be like on screen. I want it to be like canonical. I want it to just fill in that gap. There was actually we probably don't have time to go too detailed with this, but shortly after Enterprise was canceled, there was an attempt. I think Rick Berman was still involved, but there was an idea of doing like a trilogy of movies to show the Earth-Romulan War. And tonally, they were going to do like a Star Trek story a little bit darker, a little bit more Deep Space Nine in style, but they wanted to do that as 3 movies, and then that got rejected, and then eventually we ended up getting like Star Trek 09 instead. But I always wanted to see these Earth-Romulan War movies that we never got.
Very cool. We could probably do a whole episode just on that. It is tradition on Starfleet Boy to rate episodes, but I'm going to say this episode's kind of unrateable. It's top of the class. It's a definitive episode. I agree that like you can show this episode to people and it would probably as their first entry point into the original series, and it would probably entice people to want to see it. But that being said, since it's unrateable for me, if you guys want to give a rating, that's fine. And audience, feel free to chime in with your ratings as well. I'll hand it over to you next, Earl Grey Trekkie.
10 out of 10.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll give it 10 Romulan Centurions out of 10.
Very good. Well, this was really fun. I'm glad we could resume our TOS discussions. We did it. There was a long hiatus between.
Yay!
Yeah, we made it. We talked about Balance of Terror. Was there anything left on your notes or anything that you guys wanted to cover before we go?
One thing you asked us to like think of a criticism, and I did think of
yeah.
something. I would have liked if they expanded Sulu's part a little bit, just given what we know of George Takei's history with this type of subject matter. And I would have enjoyed, maybe giving Sulu a scene to really, really shine. I think that would have been very appropriate.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would have loved to have seen more Sulu. Good critique, George Takei. If you're listening to this, maybe you can. Chime in. What do you guys have going on that you'd like to promote before we head out? And Stress Free K gave it a 10 as well. Thank you very much.
Well, as always, you can find me over on the Text Trek podcast, which we stream live these days every Friday at 7:30 p.m. Central to discuss each episode of Star Trek. We're kind of 2/3 of the way through our 23 weeks of Star Trek with Lower Deck Season 1 and Disco Season 3. So you want to check those out. Starfleet Boy is with us regularly over there, and we can also be heard through our audio-only podcast of these conversations released late Sunday night, maybe early Monday morning, a couple of days after our live stream on YouTube and Facebook on Fridays.
Most excellent. And we call it... Go ahead, sorry.
Do you have a favorite episode of season 3 so far?
Favorite episode? Probably 2 weeks ago, the Trill episode. What was it?
Forget Me Not.
Forget Me Not. Yeah, I can never remember that episode title. But that was a that was a good one. I liked this last one too. I really liked this this last episode we got.
If we didn't talk about Star Trek the original series today, we were going to talk about the first 6 episodes of Discovery. To answer your question, I think last week's episode might be my favorite so far. That's the one with the
seeds.
Your least favorite, Favre.
It's not my least favorite, but I don't know. It might be. I was frustrated with it last week.
He was very frustrated with it.
I was very frustrated with life in general last week. So I don't know how much is the episode's fault, but it did not pull me out of it like I always hope Star Trek does when I sit down to watch it.
Which was your favorite so far, Robbie?
I'd say Forget Me Not, but Die Trying was quite good as well.
Die Trying. Excellent. Robbie, do you have anything to promote? I know that you wrote a script for Triangulum Audio Studios, TAS YouTube, and it was for, what was it for?
Kira.
I can't remember. Thank you, Kira. I knew it was. I was gonna say Deep Space Nine just in general, but it was for Kira. So audience, go check that out. Anything
Very
else going
cool.
on?
I need to watch that.
Yeah.
No, I've not got anything to promote. All
right, except maybe your Twitter handle, which is Earl Grey Trekkie, spelled just the way it is in your username there. Follow Robbie. He's awesome, and he does really cool questions and polls, and he retweets like things that I would never see unless I saw them on Robbie's feed. You're an awesome Trekkie, and I love following you, so it's very cool. And thank you for being on this show. Of course, Starfleet Boy is found here. Thanks for attending, audience. It was a pleasure having you. We do Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, a Star Trek Discovery live reaction / discussion. It's really a reaction because it's like fresh off the the debut of each episode. And then Fridays, as we said before, we do TQIF. Sometimes I'm on TrekLad. It's been really fun going on there, and I call it like the TQIF pregame, so everyone go check out TrekLad on Fridays. And then of course I've been a regular guest now for Star Trek Discovery, and we did Star Trek Lower Decks conversations on Text Trek for TQIF, and then right after comes Starfleet Boy After Dark. Last night was a really fun. Well, they're always fun episodes. Did you see the Baby Yoda last week, Robbie?
Yeah, I saw it. It was a great episode.
It was like, so yeah, if you guys like the Mandal, we don't.
The thing was in the refrigerator at my house yesterday when Antonia came home from work. She opened the refrigerator and there's the child was in there staring back at her.
Doesn't it make noises and stuff? Like, is it going to short circuit? It's going to short circuit if you have it in the refrigerator.
Yeah, it's fine. 35 degrees or whatever Fahrenheit. That's not gonna hurt anything.
Not gonna hurt anything. So yeah, check out Starfleet Boy After Dark, and then Saturdays we're resuming our TOS discussion. So audience, mark your calendars. Normally they'll be at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then I think this is happening tomorrow on Trek on the Tube. We're going to be doing a kind of game show.
Yeah,
fun thing. Yeah, it's really cool. As a matter of fact, you two are both invited if you want to come on and be contestants. I think it would be fun to compete with you. The game show would be kind of whatever, but Trek on the Tube has made it Star Trek themed, and it's really fun and funny. So check that out.
I'll be there.
And, yeah, awesome. Oh, look, Jason's here. Hey, it's gonna be tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, it's like
sweet.
4 o'clock my time, right?
I think so. Yeah.
It's like, what time is it for you, Starfleet Boy?
I think it's I think it is 4 my time, so it'll be 3 your time.
So and then it'll be 9 p.m. UK.
Yeah, it might be a little late.
Be fine.
Oh, good. Okay, cool, perfect. Yay! All right, so we'll do it. By the way, Jace is here. Hey guys, hey Jace, and specifically, hey Robbie. So
Hi.
Jace, you made it. You made it to the stream. You make it to a bunch of streams. We love seeing you. I love seeing you on Trek Central. Oh yeah, and Dom, who comes on Starfleet Boy sometimes, go check him out on Trek Central. That's tomorrow as well. Oh, we might be competing with Trek Central tomorrow. I'll have to ask Trek on the Tube about that. We'll see. Anyways, either way, you can watch streams. Robbie does it all the time. You can watch them later. You don't have to watch them live. We like having you guys in our audience, though. It's nice. Anyways, live long and prosper, everyone.